What's happening, Wargamers? Welcome to the meditations for our first game of key operations on the channel. And it was a very successful defense by Alex. His Separatist alliance, they hit the center, and it was backbreaking. I could not chew through it at all. I think I did one. Well, I did get 3 wounds onto you, but it didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, especially because Django's came so late.
So I think something that I really took away from this game is I do think I lost in list building. I think I built a list that I thought was kind of cool, very kind of thematic, but couldn't do jack all.
They had a rough time.
I couldn't chew through any of your stuff.
Yeah,
is what it really kind of boiled down to, right? Like I had nothing that could really go into Dooku. The Magnet Guard took a lot more for me to take down than I would have hoped for. Like Grievous just is helpful because that's the thing. I think only Plo Koon was able to do a lot of damage in there, and unfortunately, Plo was just. I wanted him to be so good.
Yeah.
In this game, I love Plo, and he doesn't show up. I don't feel like he ever really shows up in this game, which is really unfortunate. He
feels just lacking. He always feels like he's doing just not enough. Just not enough.
Well, I feel like his identity is non-existent.
Yeah.
Because you have to keep him within 3 of a clone trooper for it to be useful, and it was non-existent for me. Not with the way I had to kind of go around here. This was a rough learning experience here.
Yeah.
I still really like key operations. It is a little disappointing that I think that there are some units that are just not very good polls, or at the very least, like, don't bring them all in this particular thing. Now, I mean, I could have brought ARF troopers, and that probably would have helped me immensely.
I think so too.
For some coordinated fire exposes, and I did go into a hard Separatist list here. You brought Separatist good stuff.
Yeah, I think I brought like a very straightforward, this is just Separatists list.
Yeah.
And I think they play remarkably well on the defensive on this key operation. Like, they just need to stall, and boy howdy, can they do that.
Yeah, well, especially when I'm not putting out the damage output as well, right? Yeah. And you were getting the rolls you needed for your core shield defenses the whole game, which was great for you. You were getting you got what you needed to do. You were able to make the choices you needed to that just really stalled me out, and I had nothing. I mean, your ingress points were, as always, they just punishing. Just absolutely punishing. I gotta stop letting you put ingress points because that
you gotta take that power away from me.
That bites me every single time with the amount of, because like you always place them like right next to objectives, and it's just like, yeah, I'm over here.
I promise I'm not thinking about putting them next to the objectives. I'm just kind of putting them where I think they make sense.
I'm over here going, it's like, yeah, thematically, it makes sense right over there. An ingress point doesn't get me on the objective at all. This one maybe gets me on the objective, but I mean, then I'm also body blocked from the rest of it. Meanwhile, over here, it's like, I'll put one right there, and I can stack a guy there, So yeah, it's just something to be. I think this game plays better with less ingress points.
I think
personally,
that is also a takeaway from this game.
Yeah, because I think the amount of extra movement that you can get, especially if you're playing a faction that either really takes advantage of movement or really needs that extra movement. But anyway, yeah. So otherwise, I think key operations is still a fun game system.
Oh yeah. Speaking of extra movement, the amount of dashes I got off of those alarms rolls. Incredible for them. Yeah. Okay. So that mechanic. Every time at the end of your turn, you had the consoles, and you were rolling a die for every console you control plus 1 if you control the shield generator. Yeah.
And we were talking about this, and just almost every single roll, you were getting usually 2 effects off.
Yeah. Even if you get one of them, that's just a lot of stuff you're doing.
One of them is fine, but a lot of the time you were getting okay, well, I'm going to dash somebody up and I'm going to remove some damage from the thing, right?
Or I'm going to remove a condition.
I never got beyond, I think, maybe 4.
I think you got to 4.
I think maybe I got to 4, but you removed, I think, 5 or 6 damage overall.
Insane.
And I could not keep up with it, just at all. The other thing is I think your order deck really worked in your favor because you were feeding me your supports.
Yes, I mentioned early on that I was thinking, it's rough that I'm drawing all my primaries before you, then your primaries get to come up and punish my primaries. But what wound up happening is you punished all my supports and secondaries first, and mostly it was just you punishing the B1s, and that really didn't get you a lot of momentum.
It gets me no momentum.
Oh, sorry, momentum in the game, not momentum in the rules sense.
It gets me absolutely nothing there, and I think because of the nature of this particular game, like, man, the Separatists are really good in key operations.
I think so too.
Because they have their little death bubbles that they operate in, and my goodness, I could not crack it.
Yeah, I'm definitely thinking, like, if I was playing the aggressor here and Dooku walked over onto that point, absolutely just said, "This is mine forever," and then thwacked it for, like, 5 damage, that would have been, like, he's still incredible on the offense, not just on the defense.
Well, I mean, Dooku doesn't start, like, Dooku might be able to do some interesting things on. I think that's the really interesting part about it, because the way it functions is, in order to put damage on here, you have to compare a node to a node.
Mm-hmm.
So if you haven't gotten any damage on there, and your first node is just, say, a condition, you're not putting anything on there, right? Like, the first node has to be a damage, your second node has to be a damage, then you have to have a damage and a shove,
or a shove.
But, like, it's a very specific sequence of events that basically you need to pull up here.
I'm just looking at, like, Dooku's Form 2 Makashi. If he gets his tree on the thing, he gets 6. Like, he can fulfill all of that. Like, if we look here,
because by the time he hits number 4, so he's
damage,
still good there.
Damage, shove or damage.
Then
shove
a condition.
Or then that's damage, and then he gets a condition.
You wouldn't get your 6th one, because your 6th one is a damage or a
You're going this way.
Oh, yep, sorry, that's right.
And then
that's
it's damage. So he would get 6.
Yeah, if you cap down. So.
And that's something to think about, is you want to look at how your trees will affect the core shield when you're building your list. Because you had, like, the commandos who were... Or the
commandos were... No, even the commandos weren't great. Like, the clones themselves are not great in this particular scenario because their trees are kind of loppy, right?
Yeah.
They're weird. I think what it really comes down to is that, like, if you really build to tweak out your list for this system, I think you can really build a strong list that's going to do a lot for you.
I think so, too. I think I kind of stumbled into a very good list for it.
Yeah, well, yeah, you didn't do any prep for it. I'm just like, well, I'm thinking I'm going to run Republic list here.
Yeah, you thought you wanted to run Republic. I was like, well, Separatists make sense. Yeah. This is a droid factory. That makes sense. And then it worked out really well for me.
Now, mind you, the Republic I wanted to run was actually Anakin, Obi-Wan, but I left all of them at the LGS.
Yeah, I do think Anakin can do some really interesting things on this.
I've played one of these missions with Anakin, and Anakin, I think, at one point chewed through like 5.
Yeah, and if you had Obi-Wan and you responded to my death bubbles with, but I'm also hunkered this whole time, that would have been pretty interesting.
Yep, because they let me run back onto points and all that sort of stuff. But a lot of the time, you also just ran up and like, I'm just going to, take you out here. Although Barris got away with 1, and then you did have to do a second attack into Ahsoka. But yeah, it was just one of those things where I think the list building is kind of where I fumbled the ball in this particular game, and it's going to happen.
Yep.
I mean, learning experience right there. It's just you got to kind of grit your teeth through it.
Yeah.
It was a little demoralizing as we went through, but such is life. We are definitely going to try more key operations because this droid factory has to get destroyed eventually.
Yeah, you got to get there.
Yeah, so we're probably going to try again at some point in the future. We'll see how that all pans out here. But either way, Alex, great game as always, man.
Oh, great game.
Had a lot of fun, and we will see you guys next time. Happy wargaming.